strategy to remember on the SAT is that they will often ask you to find the total of some numbers without directly asking you to find the total of those numbers. And it's really, it's not obvious that you need to find the total of these numbers. There are two scenarios in which you're almost always expected to find the total without being asked to find the total. And the first one is when you're dealing with averages or arithmetic means, as they're called. You need to find the total of those numbers. And we're going to see a demonstration of that in a second, how that works. But that is the single most important thing to do when you're working with average or arithmetic mean questions. The second type of question that's really, really important to find the total on is ratio questions. And the important thing to remember on ratios is that if you have a ratio of 2 boys to 3 girls, neither one of those numbers, neither the 2 nor the 3, represents the whole, right? So when you have a normal fraction, 2/3, right, it's 2 out of 3, right? But with ratio, if you have 2, 2, 3, so it's 2, which is a part, and 3, which is a part. But the total is 5, isn't it? If there are 2 boys and 3 girls, there are 5 students, right? 5 kids altogether, which means that both of those numbers can be both of the components of the ratio can be broken out into their own fractions, right? You have 2/5 and 3/5, and that adds together to give you 1. So that's a really important concept to remember, finding the total on average arithmetic mean questions and ratio questions. We're going to see examples of both of those right now. Okay, so we have to find the total. When we're dealing with averages, we have to really pay attention to the equation, right? So normally when you're dealing with averages, you have the average is equal to the sum, or the total, or the sum divided by the number of items, right? But if you were to rewrite that by multiplying both sides by the number of items, you would see that the total is actually equal to the average times the number of items. And this is actually a much more useful formula to use when you're dealing with average questions, because it forces you to find the total, which is the key to any average arithmetic mean question, right? So in this case, they say that the average of x, 4x, and 7x is 8, right? The average is equal to 8, right? So it says, and they want to find the value of x itself, right? So yes, you could use the answer choices, you could plug in the answer choices, but I want to focus on getting this algebraically. You know, the total, in this case, unknown, is equal to the average, in this case the average is 8, times the number of items, 1, 2, 3 items. So the total is equal to 24, right? Now what does that mean? Well, it just means that x plus 4x plus 7x is 24, right? The total, the sum of those numbers. So x plus 4x plus 7x is equal to 24. Now I can solve for x, right? So it's 12x equals 24, x equals 2. So do you see how we find the total here? Let's try a slightly harder question. S is a set of numbers whose average arithmetic mean is 4. T is a set that is generated by doubling each number in S. What is the average of the numbers in set T, right? So in this case, they don't tell us how many numbers there are, but we know that there's the same number of numbers in both sets, right? So we could do this algebraically, we could do this we could do this making up our own numbers. I'm fine with either approach. But let's say there are X number of items, right? In both sets. Well, we know that the total would be the average times the number of numbers, right? The number of items in the set. So the total for this first set would be 4x, right? Which makes sense. If we divide both sides by x again, we get the new average. But then it says each number is doubled. So what would that do to the total here? Well, if each number is twice as much, then the sum is also going to be twice as much. So the new sum is going to be 8x, right? So how many numbers are in this new set? X, right? So 8x divided by x is 8. That's it. Like I said, you can definitely do this question making up your own numbers as well, but I wanted to show you the algebraic way of approaching this one and why it's so important to find the total when you're dealing with these questions. Let's look at number 16. The average weight of 6 pumpkins in a pile is 12 pounds. So we know the average is 12, right? Another pumpkin is added and the average weight of the pumpkin in the pile increases to 14 pounds. What is the weight in pounds of the added pumpkin? Okay, so again, find the total. It's always really important on average questions. So you know there are 6 pumpkins. So average times the number is 6 times 12, right? Which is 72. That represents the weight of all 6 of the pumpkins in the original setup, right? Now they're saying another pumpkin is added and the average weight of the pumpkin in the pile increases to 14 pounds. Now that's an interesting question because in this case they give us the average, and they tell us that there are, not tell us, but we can see that there are now 7 pumpkins, right? So 7 pumpkins times 14-pound average would be the new total, right? So 7 times 14 is 98. So if the weight of 6 pumpkins is 72 pounds, the weight of the 7 pumpkins was 98 pounds, what do you think is the weight of the 7th pumpkin, right? It's just the difference of those two. So 98 minus 72 is 26. We're done. Make sense? Okay, let's try number 16, the hardest one here. So the average age of a certain group of 15 employees is 25 years. If 5 additional employees are included in the group, then the average age of the 20 employees is 30 years. What is the average age of the 5 additional employees? So again, it's all about finding the total here. So 15 employees, average is 25. So 15 times 25. I think it's 375, but let's double check. Yep. So 375. And again, that's the sum of the ages of these 15 employees, right? Now they're saying 5 additional employees are included in this group. So a total of 20 employees now, right? Then the average age of the 20 employees is 30 years, right? So 20 times 30 is 600, right? Now, again, that's the age of the 15 members. That's the age of the 20 members, right? So to get the total of the ages of these 5 new members, you have to subtract these 2 numbers, right? So it's 225. And then they want to know what's the average age of these 5 additional employees. So it's 225 divided by 5. And 225 divided by 5 is 45. Not too bad, right? Okay, so just again, one final time, when you're dealing with average questions, find the total by multiplying the number of items by the average.